We're doing Project YammaMini again today. I've been experimenting with the throttle bodies because I sort of gave up last night. The clamps, the upper clamps, especially on this third throttle body, the clamp is too close to the frame and I can't get the Allen key socket in there even as a quarter drive. Some of you may be thinking, why don't you use a ball end socket, cap head socket wrench? But because the Allen key bolt, the cap head is only very shallow, when the ball socket is going around at an angle, it sort of just takes the corners out of the Allen key head. So what I've done is I've resorted to taking it all back off again, altering the clamps, trying to find the best position. It's been off and on a couple of times, but we've now got this clamp facing down in there as far as it will go. It won't fully go round in there because they're too close together. That clamp's facing down that way. Those two will face out towards the engine and I'll be able to get to those, and the bottom ones we can get to through the side as I was doing yesterday. Well, that's the plan. Right, next I was going to show you a few things that I've had to alter and modify on the engine and parts that I'm going to remove. Right guys, I was just going to show you a few bits that I've had to remove from the engine that are not required. First one's there's an idle control valve which operates a linkage on the throttle bodies. There's a vacuum pipe, and also there's a water coolant pipe which goes to it, which goes, one of them was on the back of the engine, probably can't see it from here. There's also another coolant pipe which we had to modify. I had it in my hand here just a second ago. Let me have a look. That was the bottom coolant pipe, and there was a water pipe coming up from that, which I believe went to the idle control, but I can't remember now. But we had to saw that off at the flange face where there's an O-ring, and get a longer pipe welded on at about a 30-degree angle for the bottom water hose, and we didn't require that bit anymore. So that was that. That's the original gear lever. It's only a little diddly gear lever, but we're not using that one. There's a bespoke made one that comes with the kit. This is the remains of the X-up valve. So the Yamaha motorbikes use an X-up valve, which is controlled. There's a servo unit here somewhere in the middle, which is controlled by the ECU on the engine. These pipes link up to the exhaust manifold. Oh, they actually go on these here. Let me show you. See these here? The pipes go on these elbows coming out of the exhaust ports, and the idea is that it affects the performance. It's for performance control between low RPM and high RPM. It affects the length of the exhaust. It's to fool the engine into thinking the exhaust pipes are longer than they actually are. So after 6,000 RPM, the servo would be fully open, and below 6,000 RPM, it's shut. And it's just a way of trimming, getting more power where it's needed in the rev range. Anyway, we're not using any of that because that's all interconnected with the bike manifold and the muffler, and this kit comes with a bespoke stainless steel made manifold. So we had to block these pipes off by tapping a thread up into here. I had to have sighted assistance for this, I must admit. I think we tapped an M8 by 1.25 thread and used a Allen key grub screw with Loctite and wound it up in there absolutely tight, which blocks those off. Then lower down is the we've got the oil filter this side. This side was the oil to water cooler. Oh, sorry. Hang on a minute. That was the oil to water cooler, which was on the block down in there. So the water cools the oil, but you can run this in the kit, but it has to have modifications made. But as the engine runs very hot anyway, I've opted to run with an oil cooler, an air oil cooler. And this is the sandwich takeoff plate, which screws on the thread sticking out the front of the block there. The thread didn't come with the kit, so I had to make one. So what I did is I used the existing bolt. I used the existing bolt that held on the oil cooler, which was about that long. So I measured, with sighted assistance, I measured the depth of the thread in the block, the depth of the thread in the oil takeoff to make the stud the maximum length required for strength. I then got an M20 by 1.5 die, ran it all the way down this bolt until I achieved the length I want. Then I used a nut. We bought a nut off of eBay. Wound it down to where I needed it the length to be. Cut through it with a hacksaw using the nut as a guide. Filed it off so it's all nice and true on the end. Wound it in the block with permanent Loctite, and now that sandwich plate's good to go. So basically all that happens is the oil comes from the block, flows up the centre pipe, it flows around the outside, it comes through this port, one of these ports here, it'll go down to the oil cooler in the front grille, out of the oil cooler and back into the port, and then return into the block. There'll also be a T-piece on the oil cooler where a pipe, one single pipe will go to for an AccuSump, which is an oil accumulator, which if we get oil surge, it senses the oil surge and it basically pushes oil back into the engine to prevent cavitation and the engine seizing. Right, next job I'm going to do is going to remove this modified top water pipe, because I want to remove the cam cover. I've initially just fitted this on here just to make sure everything fits, because this was made using the old Yamaha water pipes and you don't use the thermostat housing anymore. So I was just making sure that it was jigged correctly and that it was going to fit. So off we go. push this water pipe off now. There we go. Lovely jubbly. Let's see where the O-rings are. The O-rings are in the block, in the cylinder head rather, down here. Oh look, here we go. Let's just retrieve those while they go on a walk down inside the cylinder head, which we don't want. There you go. Now let's just be careful. That one. And there's that one. Put that one back on that one. There we go, like that. So purely that pipe fits down into the cylinder head with those O-rings on there, and that's all that seals it. And the 6mm bolts go down in and clamp it.